have Dana Adams from the Life Mapping Institute with us today. Hi, Dana.
Hi.
I'm so glad that you're with us. Exciting news, Dana will be presenting at the annual You Got This event for middle school girls. We are super lucky and very excited to have her on board because she's going to be talking this year about the inner critic, which we all have. And it fits nicely into Dana's overall message of living your gift. She's written this amazing book, Live Your Gift, and she has workshops on it. And basically, it's thinking about your life in a very purposeful way, starting from the basics of what are your beliefs, what are your values, what are your goals, and how do you reach them. And one of the things that we know is that the inner critic can often get in your way of living your gift. How have you seen that impacting people, Dana?
Wow. Well, I can speak for myself for sure. And the biggest impact that it had on my life was just keeping me held back from really stepping into what it was that I felt was more of my purpose in life and what I meant to share while I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
And so that internal voice that so many of us have can be even more powerful than the other voice, which is the one that's wise and trying to guide us to do our best work and to be the best people that we can be.
Right. So true. And the inner critic really, I find with my work with teens, is that it really ramps up in middle school. It's when the voice gets louder, it gets more critical, it gets very brutal. So when our girls are supposed to be finding what they're passionate about and excited about, this inner critic really chimes in and holds them back.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that it can come from many sources. I mean, I think at the age that the girls are in middle school, the peers and the outside influence of friends can be really important to them to have this sense of acceptance. But those voices can be very loud in their minds. It can also come from teachers or coaches. It can come from us as parents, where sometimes I think it's important for everyone to realize that when someone is giving you advice or someone is critiquing you or telling you something about how you're being or how you're acting that they don't necessarily care for, or they have a different suggestion for you, is that they're coming from their experience and their world, which doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the person that they're saying it to.
Mm-hmm.
But so often, because a lot of times we want that acceptance and we want to be liked and loved, we take that at face value without putting it through any filter.
Right.
And if that really gets us at a trigger point where we might already be insecure or not have our highest sense of self-worth, it just goes into almost pounding that message further in, which keeps us playing small, and that's not what we want at all.
Right. Well, and what I see with moms in particular who are raising daughters is that their inner critic, the mom's inner critic, comes out towards the daughter. So, like, don't dress like that because people might not like you. Really, that comes back to, like you're saying, the mom's own insecurities. So we have to be careful with what we're saying to our kids. And is it coming from a place of really trying to help them and nurture them and encourage them, or is it coming from our inner critic?
Right. And even sometimes I think as in my case, is that I think that sometimes in my mom's case, she got much of her acknowledgement as a person as how she was perceived as a mother.
Mm-hmm.
When in actuality, we really are two separate beings, and we want to nurture and guide our kids. But they also have to go through those experiences in life and make those choices for themselves. So the more that we can remind ourselves as parents that it really doesn't have anything to do with us, but how do we support them, and maybe even asking them questions about what they're up to if we're not necessarily in agreement with it, more from a place of curiosity, of understanding, where's their mind at? What are they thinking? What is it that they are seeking? And helping them maybe step back and evaluate, is that really important? Is that really the direction that they want to be going?
Right.
Plus, we know that at that age, we only have the ability to pretty much see what's right in front of us, not necessarily think through the consequences that there might be after we make those immediate decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So I think sometimes helping them to think through what the potential ramifications are of the choices that they're making today,
Right.
and that it can impact their life on a much bigger scale.
So true, so true. And you have 4 boys who are all, well, not all teens, but all younger. Like, how old is your youngest?
So my youngest is 15. He's going to be a
Mhm.
sophomore in high school, and then a 16-year-old who will be a junior, one that's 18 going to college next week, and one graduating UW here this summer that's 22.
Mhm. So we balance each other out. I have 3 daughters, and my youngest is 16 and my oldest is 21. So, it's interesting for us to talk and see like the different sides of things. But the inner critic is something that is there for girls and boys for sure. So let's think about middle school girls, because our event obviously is geared towards middle school girls. This inner critic, like, how is it holding them back?
So I think one of the biggest ways that it can hold people back is that if they are more concerned about how they're showing up and what they look like in their, not only their appearance, but in the way they act or something that they might try, if they start thinking about whether or not other people are going to approve or disapprove of that, even if it's something that they love or it's something that brings them joy, I think sometimes it shows up as all of a sudden we're not as willing to express ourselves in the ways that we're really meant to. And so sometimes I think where it comes about, here would be a couple of examples. Someone who is just really enjoys art or is naturally artistic, or someone who is naturally a leader, and they might be interested in being involved in leadership or student council or something like that, but their friends who may not have those skills see that as something that they would be really intimidated by. And so sometimes I think it's the outside comments of other people's insecurities that if we feel like we're not getting the approval from the people that we want, we might suddenly change our mind about doing something.
So in that situation, we've talked a lot about the outer noise that we hear from other people and the outer critic from friends, peer pressure. So what is the inner critic saying in these situations?
The inner critic is actually already starting on the person's insecurities. So where they don't feel as confident, it could be this chatter of, are you really sure you want to try that? What if you look dumb? What if people make fun of you? What if you fail? You don't know what you're doing yet. You don't have any experience in that. And so it's all of this self-doubt that might creep in and might stop us before we even start.
Mm-hmm.
And, in my mind, I see that as something that would be really unfortunate, instead of realizing that that's how we learn, is by trying and experimenting. And that's how we get even closer to understanding the things that we do well, or things that excite us, that bring us joy, that we can then even, spend more time doing. But if we don't even try because the voice inside is stopping us, I think that's where it can become a problem.
For sure. And I think that the inner critic is really, it's insecurities wrapped up with our fears. It becomes this inner critic. And it's interesting, I do this exercise with the girls that I coach. It's about fears and needs. And it's actually was adapted from something that was done with Microsoft executives. And the same fears that Microsoft executives have are the same as teen girls have. I mean, we all have the fear of wanting to belong, the fear of looking stupid, the fear of being lonely, all of these fears. And it just comes out as this inner critic saying, if you do this, then you might look stupid. If you do this, you might be lonely. And, the list goes on and on.
Right. And the reality is that is so much made up in our head. And so if we can turn that around, which is really what my goal is, and working with the girls, is to help them have some tools of what do they do instead if they hear that voice.
Right.
So I will give them tools. They're what I would call wise words, in things that we can say to ourselves instead. And then also I ask them to project out a little ways, to thinking of themselves, say, when they're in their early 20s, when they're a little bit older and they have this experience, how would they be guiding them now at the age they are? And usually that is telling them, you've got this, just like your event, you can do this, you're ready, you're capable. And there's one of the things that I think is just the beauty in that is that when we can step powerfully into something that we want to do and something we want to try just for the sake of the experience, it actually gives other people permission around us to do the same. So so if girls can be more confident in their own choices, in calming that voice to say, that's not real. That is a fear-based voice. It's not based in reality. And I am capable and I can do this. And come from that place instead. It's a much more powerful place to be coming from.
Right. And I'm so excited about the session that you're going to provide for the girls, because we're going to talk about the inner critic. And like you said, when you hear this inner critic, what do you do instead? Because what I hear from a lot of well-meaning adults is, oh, don't think like that. Oh, you're good enough. But we can't just say, don't think that. It's like the polar bear or white bear thing, right? If you tell someone, don't think about a white bear, they're going to think about it even more. So we have to be able to acknowledge the inner critic, process what it's saying, and saying, all right, I hear you, but this is the way I'm going.
Exactly. Because if they can pinpoint where it's coming from, and a lot of times the voice starts from a specific event that has happened, where they really felt like they didn't fit in, or they were criticized, or belittled in some way. If they can identify where that came from and just acknowledge that for what it is, and maybe what the scenario was around them when it played out, to realize that it's really not about them. I think it gives them the permission even more to detach from that, because it is something that we create. It's a story we tell ourselves. And then that practice, the more they can do it now, the stronger they will be in the future, for sure.
Right. Well, the other thing that I love about this is that if you have this goal, you have a vision, you're going to fail along the way. So having this strong inner cheerleader, you're able to take that failure, and instead of going back to that inner critic and saying, yeah, you're right, you're like, okay, you're still not right though. I'm still going to work hard and I'm going to get to where I want to go. So you can just kind of blow past that inner critic and be like, yeah, see ya, I'm going to go a different route.
Yeah, for sure. And in taking it as, if it didn't work out, it's what did I learn from that? And then that information becomes powerful and moving forward. So it's, how do you quickly turn a situation that may not have resulted in what we wanted to realizing it actually has moved us ahead because of what we've learned from it, what we can do different in the future. And to say, you know what, good job. Just good job for trying in the first place. And yeah,
and it's interesting. You and we know a lot of female entrepreneurs, and this inner critic is something that comes up all the time, that we, as a group tend to we play small when we listen to the inner critic. And for our girls and our boys in middle school and high school, we want them to have their eye on a goal that they are excited about and passionate about. We don't want the inner critic to say, you need to take this teeny tiny little narrow path because that's the safe one. That's the inner critic talking of, you're going to do just what everybody expects you to do. You're not going to follow that passion because this, and this, all these inner critic voices. So I'm excited that we can work together with these middle school girls to get them on a path to listen to their inner cheerleader instead of their inner critic, and to really learn at a young age how to combat that, because there's many adults who have never learned that skill, and it really holds them back. So I'm excited you're going to be at the You Got This event. For parents who are listening, I hope that you can sign up your daughter to be at this event. It's on September 28th from 10 to 4 at the Sammamish Boys and Girls Club. There will be a registration link provided below. And if you want to find out more about Dana's work, you can go to Life Mapping Institute. Is it .com, Dana?
It is.
.com. She's starting a new program for teens as well. And what is the age group for that one?
So that's from 6th grade through a senior in high school. So
okay, so you can find out more about that. And I know you're offering one at Evergreen Hospital coming up in the fall. So you can check out her website and look at that. I did her 2-day workshop, and it's really great. I love the way that you break it down, Dana, starting from beliefs and going to your goals and how to get stuff done. And it's thrilling that you're going to be there for the girls. You're such a great example and role model for them. And thanks for coming on board. And I appreciate you taking the time to do this interview today.
You bet. Thank you. I'm excited to be there.
Thank you.